From the tea rooms of the early 1900s to modern-day cafes, tea has been a powerful connector for women to take time, come together, and exchange ideas. Some historians suggest what transpired in many of the tea rooms of yesteryear laid the groundwork for the suffragette movement, allowing women to gather, exchange ideas, start businesses, and change their place in the world. So what better way to empower women today than by gathering inspiring entrepreneurs and leaders to share their stories over a simple pot of tea? Each week, our amazing women will be on hand to guide you on your journey. So if you're ready to be inspired, come inside and grab a cup. It's time for tea. Technology is rapidly changing how we work, talk, and now even how we walk. Kegan Schouwenburg, armed with an iPad and 3D printing technology, is revolutionizing the orthotics industry with her company, Insoles. Kegan, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, tell me a little bit about Insoles.
Absolutely. So I started Insoles 2 years ago with the idea being that we all get up every day, we all have feet, we put on shoes, those shoes cause us pain, and we should probably do something about that. So if we could use technology to create a product that enabled people to feel great in their footwear, to be able to participate in the activities that they wanted to do, and whether that be, running a marathon or just going to get the mail, and do that pain-free, that was really compelling to me.
Okay, let's talk about the technology, because normally when we hear orthotics, you go into the store and you buy those little pads and you put them in your shoes. Now, physically, what can a person do with their iPad? They take their foot. How does it work?
Yeah, so I like to think it's like magic.
That's a good answer. Magic.
I was actually doing a little competitive research this weekend, and I tried out a pair of off-the-shelf insoles just to sort of like gut check what we're doing with our product and to see how far we've come. And I think what we've been able to create with customization and 3D printing and an iPad is really, really exciting. Download the app. You find a friend.
Okay.
It's we see a lot of orders coming in at nights and weekends, and I think that's because it's families doing it together. It's people that are scanning their kids or their husbands or their wives, and it really can become an activity, I think, for everybody. But you download the app, you take 3 photos. So it's going to be the side of your foot, the arch, the back of your foot, the subtalar joint, and then the bottom of the foot, and that's what we call the plantar surface. And we're effectively behind the scenes capturing all this different data points from those photos. We're plugging that into a very complex data model that we've built, and what results from it is a pair of custom insoles that then go into a printer later that day and are shipped to you completely custom within a week.
Okay, so the technology takes the information about my foot, and where does it go? Where is this orthotic being made?
So all of our production happens down in Texas. So we're printing everything. Everything's made in the U.S. We do our post-production up in New York. So you've got people every day that are packing and shipping soles to customers. And then behind the scenes, it's all in the cloud. So it's all, basically, we're looking and we're using pretty advanced computer algorithms to create and make custom fit product accessible.
But this is all this 3D printing, which we're hearing so much about. How does it, this is like a first company to really do this.
Absolutely. We're really, in my opinion, we are the pioneer of mass customization. Insoles is really leading the way and saying, okay, what can we do with this technology? And let's not just make, things that go on our desk, but let's change the world and let's give people products that can actually change their lives. And when I think about, Insoles and the possibility of us to make orthotics and to make insoles, and hopefully one day to make footwear, accessible to anyone in the world at a price that they can afford, and what that means for as far as just accessibility to products that promote preventative health care. That's so exciting to me, and that really is it's democratization of products through technology, and that means that we can give somebody in the middle of Africa the same level of care as we can give somebody in the U.S. and a product that they fall in love with for a price that's really, really great. It's a job worth doing.
What is the price of regular orthotics?
So our consumer product, Insoles Flex, is available through the app for $99.
Okay, and so it's going to be right for your foot.
Absolutely. So it's completely custom. It's customized to your weight. So that means the entire footbed is dynamic so that if you weigh, let's say 300 pounds versus 100 pounds, it's going to respond differently underneath your gait cycle and really give you the support that you need. It's customized to your shoe, so you can pick within the app. Let's say you want to wear it in a dress shoe versus a sneaker versus a boot. These are all different options that we have available. And I think as the company grows, obviously we'll be making more and more options available there. And then finally, it's about your body's biomechanics. And this is, looking at your feet and saying, they're probably wildly different from mine, and that's okay, but that means they need different things. They need different levels of support and different products that are going to take you through the day. And so we're customizing across all of those levels, which is wildly different than anything that's on the market today. And the fact that we're doing it through an iPhone is unprecedented.
So how did you come up with the idea?
Oh, wow. There's two versions to that story. There's the version of the story in which I grew up wearing orthotics, and I have terrible feet.
Okay, so you had experience. This is something that you were familiar with.
Yeah, absolutely. My mom, she took me to a podiatrist when I was probably 8 years old, and they wanted to operate on my feet and give me surgery because they said the effects as I aged were going to get so much worse, and obviously we didn't go down that path. Instead, I got orthotics. And flash forward, till a couple of years ago, and I'm looking at 3D printing, and I'm saying, okay, here's this amazing technology, but what are we going to do with it? And suddenly you're that 8-year-old kid again, and you're saying, okay, this is the product. Like, this is the first step, pun intended, that we can take to really doing something with this technology and hopefully catalyzing change and making other products possible that maybe aren't possible today.
So that's 2 years ago. So you're sitting there 2 years ago, and you decide, I'm going in. How do you raise money? Do you put your own money in? I mean, how do you get from that idea to the company is up and rolling?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a journey. For me, it's always been sort of just blindly, just you just go, right? You're like, okay, this is something that I'm going to do. Like, it seems like a good plan. I'm pretty sure that we can build a business here. We knew that there was, a market on the medical side where people were going to podiatrists, they were going to chiropractors, they were going to physical therapists, and they were buying orthotics. But the method that was being used to create those orthotics, there's just so much room for innovation and improvement there. I mean, we are replacing plaster casting, which is what's still being used in a lot of doctors' offices, with an iPad. And we're really helping these doctors, I think, to elevate their practices and to use a new kind of technology that can help them better serve their patients. So that was one opportunity that we saw, and we were like, okay, we want to do that. And on the other side of things, it was all about access. And it was all about, okay, so there's, all these people that are buying insoles. Cumulatively, you have a $4.7 billion existing market. You've got on top of all the people buying insoles, 7 out of 10 people that have foot pain, many of them who aren't doing anything about it because there is no good solution. And so if we could come in and say, okay, here's a product that will change that, I think from a venture capital perspective, that was very, very compelling. And obviously still continues to be compelling as we grow the business.
We already know where the great idea for Soles came from, but how did the business get up and running? We'll take a look at that when we come back. Stay tuned. Okay, so when we're talking about raising money, to date, Soles has raised more than $20 million. That's amazing. How do you do it? Where do you start? Who do you go to?
So if I look back to the very beginning, I mean, raising that first round of capital was one of the hardest things we ever did. And I remember, there were days when I would sort of get up and be like, I don't know how we're going to get this done, but I know that we can, and I know that if we can figure out how to raise the money, then we can make this company real. And what is more motivating than that? So what does that actually mean? There was 2 strategies that we took. One was looking on AngelList. AngelList is an amazing platform of basically, investors and companies that are very early stage that are looking to meet. Think about it like a dating site, but for, early stage companies. And, you can go online and you can very easily access people that are investing in 3D printing or healthcare or, market segments that are in and around whatever it is that you're looking to raise money for. And so just being able to go on there and find like-minded individuals that hopefully I could then connect with through LinkedIn was really the starting tipping point. And I remember when our first investor emailed me back, and I was consulting for another company at this time, like bootstrapping. So I was consulting during the day, working on Souls at night, trying to make ends meet. And I got this first investor call back, and I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is it, right? And I'm taking this meeting from the stairwell of this place that I'm consulting for.
You're terrible. You're terrible.
And I really I thought that was it. And no, I mean, down the line, that call never amounted to anything. But that's all it is. It's a process of learning and taking those calls and talking to everybody. And I say yes to everything, and just following the paths and the doors that open. And soon we were able to get our first $50,000. And once we got 50, we were able to get 100. And once we got 100, I started to sort of learn the landscape of what terms even meant, which I think
What are some of those terms?
Yeah, a lot of entrepreneurs that raise money early on, you just don't know. You're being faced with these term sheets and you don't have any idea how to look at them, and if it's a good deal or if it's a bad deal. And I guess the basic ones are sort of pre-money and post-money valuation. So how much of the company are you giving up, and how much are you willing to give up? We had at that time people that wanted 50% of the company for $100,000, and we had people that wanted 10% of the company for $1 million. And that's the gamut that you're talking about.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I think that's why, as an entrepreneur, you have to educate yourself, because if you don't understand sort of what these terms are that are being thrown at you, it's very easy to end up in a position that you don't want to be in. But so that's one at a very, very high level. Liquidation preferences are something, tranches, basically who's getting paid back and when. Those are things that are very, very prevalent, especially in riskier early stage deals. And so just being able to understand that and think through all of those things. I think the biggest sort of mistake that I made, well, it was a learning experience. It's always a learning experience, was not realizing that we could close out that first round of capital before the entire round was raised. And so we were sort of pushing to, close out this 1.75 million seed. And I didn't realize that as soon as we had taken $500,000 of it, we could start hiring people. And if we could start hiring people, that meant we could start building a business. And at the end of the day, we're all here because we want to build businesses and change things. So that was all of a learning process. But I remember, closing that round, it was the first step to saying okay, we're going to make Souls real, and it's thrilling.
So how many investors do you have at this point?
So I think in that first round of funding that we took, it was a lot of smaller check sizes and things like that. I probably had 17 people in it. After that, it changed substantially. So our next rounds were much more focused. And I think probably in total, maybe now we have, let's say, 25. And we have a few, big funds. Lux Capital and Founders Fund are really our biggest investors. And we feel, or I feel extremely lucky to have such amazing people on board who I think have helped, bring Souls to life and, are supporting the vision every step of the way.
So what's the goal now? Do you want a certain valuation? Where do you go from here?
Yeah, I want to put Souls in every shoe. So that's at the end of the day, we're mission driven. We want to use technology. To me, technology is about making products affordable and accessible, and that's where it gets really exciting. And when you think about raising money, I hear a lot of people talking about how difficult it is and how challenging it is, and all of those things are true. But companies, when you think about it, they start because there's a convergence of a series of elements. And for Souls, what that meant was that, from a software perspective, phones and the technology behind phones and the accuracy of cameras was at a point where we could make this product real. 3D printing was at a point where everybody was just desperate for an application. People were searching for something to do with it, something that made sense. And mass customization, as a concept, I think we see the entire world and culture and economy pushing towards that. People are demanding custom products. They're demanding bespoke products. Nike is looking at making custom shoes. Adidas is looking at it. Under Armour is looking at it. Custom clothing companies are starting every day. So you've got sort of this convergence of elements. It's yes, you should start a company. And so when you have those things that come together, I think that's when you want to strike, and that's when you want to really evaluate the landscape and say, okay, what kind of business makes sense to start, and how does that fit into the larger economy?
So what is your daily life look like right now?
Yeah, so it's changed so much since we started. For me, I think my days are pretty much 8 to 8. That's average, and either Saturday or Sunday, give or take. But you wouldn't be doing it if you didn't love it. And each and every day at Souls, I love. We now have an amazing team of people in place. We're 70 people. I have a management team that are all brilliant in their own right. These people have come from Etsy and Equinox and Travelocity, and have built amazing sort of careers. And I'm learning from them, so I get to go to work and be inspired by people, and I hopefully get better at my job as a result of it. And then beyond that, we have a team of people now working to broaden our reach in the medical sphere and to bring our technology to more doctors. We've got a team working on the consumer side of products and saying, how can we increase awareness? How can we continue to innovate? And we're looking down the line. This is not just about, okay, let's look at what we're doing today, but this is about, like I said, how do we put soles in every shoe? How do you, when you're buying shoes, have the option to customize them and make them perfect and make them fit? And that could be online, it could be in a retail experience, it could be at your home, it could be at your doctor. It doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, the product experience is better for you, and that's the important thing.
We keep hearing about how we need more women in technology. Coming up next, we'll take a look at what Souls is doing to change the game. Stay tuned. So, women in technology, you are breaking barriers here. How did you do it?
Yeah, so that's the question that everybody always asks, right? And when you look at sort of the spectrum of the tech landscape, there's so few women CEOs and so few, I think, women even in leadership or management positions. And it's interesting because I hear that and I see that on one side of things, and often, I speak at events on this topic and things like that. And yet I look at Souls and we have this amazing, management team that is almost all women and very successful women in their own rights that have had great careers. And I look at the larger company and we have women software engineers and developers and product designers and working in operations and statisticians and really across the gamut. So I'm saying to myself, how is it that we have this, on one side we're reading that there are no women, and on the other side we've managed to be so lucky as to find so many who are really talented. And I think when I dig deeper and I see what that looks like, for me, it all comes from the top, right? So it's all about leadership. And by being a woman CEO, I'm going out there and I'm meeting other professional women. And I'm involved in their networks and they're introducing me to other people. And as a result of that, we end up hiring some of these people, and then that just carries out from there. So I think if we want to start to change the numbers, what that will take and what that looks like is having and funding more women-run businesses and seeing those companies grow and hopefully inspire younger generations, and then having those people leave to start their own companies.
Do you find yourself at these technology conferences?
All
the
time.
odd woman out.
There have been no shortage of times that I have been the only one in the room, and I'm fine with that. It's something that you learn and you live with, and I want to build a great company, and I'm completely fine, sort of walking into the room and I think holding my own. I think any woman in that position, that's the baseline. Have confidence and walk into the room and know what you got and know what you're building is awesome, and people should invest in it. And don't be scared about that. But I also think, and I've taken a role here in sort of nurturing, I think the next generation of entrepreneurs. I'm mentoring people at Techstars. I'm mentoring people at RGA. I have, people that have left Souls to start their own companies and businesses that, hopefully I can provide some guidance to. And it's all about that. And it's about, I think, us as women supporting each other in a, relatively male-dominated industry and working together to change the ratio.
Do you find that there are situations with women in your company who are now having perhaps childcare issues, or they're talking to you about that it may be something new for you?
No, so absolutely, and I think this is a huge topic lately that I'm very aware of. Being a CEO and thinking about benefits as the company grows. Okay, everybody's offering free lunch, right? But this is not just about free lunch. This is about how can I create a culture for my people that ultimately helps them to in their lives. And childcare is actually a really interesting one. you think about that we live in New York and what the price of nannies costs and daycare and the way that society is constructed, it's so expensive. And so what you end up with, and I think often what the woman ends up with is either staying at home or not having the resources or not being able to compete in the workplace. And so if we as a company could change that, we could provide something so simple, as like daycare for our employees. I think as we get bigger, that starts to become really, really interesting in creating environments that are more female friendly and ultimately, help different kinds of people and raise awareness of diversity at the startup. The previous company, I was very lucky there to have a female mentor who was the COO over at Shapeways, and I think I learned an incredible amount from her. But she taught me all about the ins and the outs of manufacturing and like finance and what it meant to build a P&L and all of these sort of like very base level building blocks that have been instrumental at Souls.
So mentorship has been a big...
I think so. It's important. You're going to run into problems that you don't know how to solve, and you want to surround yourself with people that you can learn from and that can help you. And everything comes back. So if you surround yourself, with people that are helping you and you're learning from them, then you should also, I think, give back to the community and hopefully help to mentor, future generations of entrepreneurs.
So where do you see Souls in 5 years?
Oh wow! I want, like I said, I want to see Souls in every shoe, and we have some amazing partnerships that we're working on, and I think that will help us take massive leaps forward. As far as being able to raise awareness and bring better fitting orthotics and insoles to the world. We're working on future generations of products and how Souls can transform. Leaving the door open for both other foot related products, but also really building technology that enables mass customization. And I think wherever we decide to take that, there's so much opportunity. We're going to see the world change in the next 5 years. We are going to move from a world in which products are mass manufactured to a world in which products are made for me. That's what's happening, and we're at the forefront of that.
And with the 3D technology, people can buy a 3D machine and make...
You say. Right? you say they can. It's interesting because there's such a delta between sort of what I think people think of as 3D printing and where it's at today and the reality of like what's actually happening. Where 3D printing is right now is like where computers were in like the 1970s. I mean, we are at the very, very beginning of what's going to be possible. And it's the companies that we see starting now are going to be the companies that pioneer that change and that push that landscape forward and spur innovation and change the way that products are made. I mean, imagine having a world in which nothing is made until it actually is bought, and what that does for the environment and waste. I mean, there's so much opportunity there. So I see Souls as being the leader in there. I see us as owning the foot. As we always say, own the foot, enable the body. But we want to create products for people's feet. We want to, help people live their lives and like be happier every day. And if I can do that, like I am totally set. And beyond that, we want to create technology that enables mass customization at large. So that's what we're building towards. And we have an amazing team in place that's doing it.
Well, you are a pioneer. You're an inspiration. And thank you so much for coming in today and sharing your story. Let me cheers to you. To feet.
To feet.
That wraps up this week's edition of the Working Woman Report. Don't forget to check us out in the social media world. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and of course, our website, workingwomanreport.com. Tune in next time for more fantastic ideas by our amazing women. Who knows? Maybe you're next. See you then.